Good afternoon, students. This is Mrs. Strada with your Week 6 audio lecture. I do apologize if it's a little late. I just wanted to make sure that you guys have this so that way we can start officially Week 6, which is Thanksgiving week, and happy Thanksgiving to each and every one of you. I'm going to go ahead and open up the Brightspace homepage so that way you have it. This is our online class. Homepage will have the left side tab with the announcements, recaps, any extended due dates, anything that's been given to you. And as always, this is my email right here. Reach out to me at any time if you can with your student email. And one easy way to remember this is if you don't know how to go and log into your Outlook, you just click on the little envelope right here and email it to me right there. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and start. I'm going to go ahead and open up with the Content tab, the Week 6 folder. Notice that it has been open since last week. I'm just going to go ahead, and what we're going to do is go into the folders and look at them in detail as to what it's about. So this is the Week 6 Part 1 folder, and we have our Week 6 Part 1 lecture slides. We also have Essay 3 that we're going to be introduced to in this section. With its components, we look at resources and sources, as well as links that could help you with your essay. We have the Purdue OWL formatting link. We have the library link for databases. We also have the JSTOR database. Notice that I also write within the Week 6 Part 1 folder that the Unit 2 exam is still ongoing. I opened up a couple days ago, so while it says I opened it up like November 20th, it will run through November 30th and will close at 11:59. There's no online submissions or stories. But understand that this is a research paper, so it does take time. So I do ask that you keep up with that time and that rigor. And in red, it does tell you the total amount of grades for these. So the essay is worth 20% of your total grade. The NOBIB is worth 10%. They make up 30% of your grades. So I'm going to go ahead and look at what we are looking at for this. We have our Week 6 Day 1 lecture slides. We also have the Essay 3 research instructions and our sources. So our resources that we could use for this essay, for many of you that are familiar with it, is the Purdue OWL website. Within it, it has beautiful citations that allow you to look at citations, specifically how they would look like within an essay or in an TPIB. They are extremely efficient in reviewing how that looks like. We also have the JSTOR database link, as it is a database that you may have to use concerning your essay. We also have the LibGuides Hill College Library Home2 page that you may be using for your essay. And again, all of these are different database collections. I just want to make sure that we understand that these are different databases. They're not just one name. When you go into these databases, they're all excellent for finding specific things. So here are our Week 6 lecture slides for you. They should be open for you. This is our to-do list for Week 6 Part 1. Important reminders for us in the introduction to our research essay. Looking at a recap of what last week looked like. Mind you, this was made a couple of days before I extend the due date for Week 5, so your Week 5 due date is very different according to what is known to you. But also that you have its due date, so please disregard its due date right here. It may be a couple of days more. And then important reminders, as the semester goes forward, I'm here to help you. These are my office hours. But also, as this is an online class, if you would like to schedule a phone or video conference, let me know. This is what's in the Week 6 Part 1 online folder. We have our lecture slides, the resources used. There's no submissions, but we have our introduction to Essay 3. So within this class, we had a mini essay, which is a compare and contrast essay. We had our critical analysis essay, essay number 2, and then we have essay number 3, which is a research paper, the argumentative essay. And just a mini overview of what an argumentative essay is. It's an essay that takes a stand on an issue. It persuades the reader to look at that writer's point of view by looking at a topic and providing evidence. So the concept of our argumentative essay is answering a question and developing from that question. and some elements that you may use within this argument, because the topic itself, everybody's going to write over it, but it's developed in a way that you would know how to write it using your own knowledge. So definitely using a thesis. We're going to be looking at personal background as well, but also historical background, what we already know from the issue or the topic, common ground, something that both sides can agree on. So we're looking at a topic and we're answering in the form of yes or no, but we're extending on it. So it is an argumentative essay with some development of analyses. Look at definitions. If your terminology is far more advanced for some people, be sure to define it. We're simple people, we're writing a simple essay, but we're just making sure that we add on to it. We're also looking at opposing thesis. And mind you, these are just elements of what make a good argument. They're not the components of the essay themselves. These are just what you can consider as you write your essay. So now this is our research paper. This is the research paper that we're going to be looking at as you follow through with Thanksgiving week, which is week 6 going into week 7. So this essay is going to be comprised of 2 sections. The essay itself, which is the essay content and the works cited page, but also the annotated bibliography. Essay 3, with all of its components, is worth 20% of your grade. The annotated bibliography is worth 10, for a combined total weight of 30%. So both of these things together have a heavy weight on. And so let's look at section 1, which is the essay. For your third and final essay, you'll be addressing the following prompt. What key elements make up a good story? That's the prompt. This is the prompt that everybody's going to be looking at. So let's look at what's going to be evident within our essay. In your essay, you should be evident of these 3 objectives. What are 4 to 5 key literary elements that should be included within a short story? Elements that we've discussed in class, but other examples. So within your essay, you're going to explore 4 to 5 key elements that, if you were writing a story, what needs to be included. You're also going to include within this development of an essay 2 to 3 stories that we've used from the entire class. Later on, the list will be also evident so that you can pull from there. And then not to mention one key element that often ruins a story. So as we started off from week 1, going into plot and exposition, we were looking at The Appointment in Samara, Godfather Death, stories like this that move us. And we wonder why. Let's pull from their elements and answer ourselves. If we were writing a New York Times bestseller, what key elements do we need so that it becomes memorable? And that's our question. The objective and purpose of this is to explore points and views and support, but after doing so, you as the student can use these points to utilize primary, secondary sources, as well as the advancement of the writing process. This assignment is to look at literary traits and how we've discussed them and how they craft a good story. This allows you to answer the question, how you've read, viewed, or listened to stories, and what key factors make them memorable. You'll need to incorporate elements from this list, the ones that we've used in class. I don't know why it highlights like that, but also some not used in class. So the ones that we've used in class are the following: plot, exposition, point of view, narrator, cause, setting, tone, diction, theme, style, irony, moral, symbol, genre, void, or the unknown, imagery, poetry, sound, line, echo, play, ploy, drama, and scene. But these are also elements that are not expressed within the course itself, but you can incorporate these in the essay because these are also elements found in stories. Characters such as the hero, the sidekick, the villain, love interest, plot twist, dialogue, tension, resolution, climax, conflict, flashbacks, epilogues, prologues. If there's an element not even listed, but you would like to use it, be sure to let me know. The purpose of this overall essay is to look at and analyze an argument presented by a topic and explore it with reason, with content, and with evidence. And as we go through point 1, point 2, point 3, you may go through multiple drafts, and that's what the course is for. We're also going to be looking at the exploration of MLA requirements for this essay. So we're going to be looking at making sure that it's typed on Word doc, and disregard that part of it being printed. It's just going to be submitted. This essay must include a title, not just essay 3 or research paper. There's no need for a title cover page, but just make sure that you give me a good title to work with. Proper MLA citation page with at least 4 to 6 quotes explored within the essay. So anywhere from direct, indirect, paraphrase, or summary quotes to fill up your paper, not just per paragraph, but all over. Times New Roman size 12, double space 1-inch margins. And your essay has to be at least 3 pages to 5 pages. This does not include the works cited page or the bibliography. The essay content itself must be at least 3 pages. And include a proper heading, course name, date, name, my name. We're going to be including for this essay its research components, and we must have at least 3 to 5 sources for this essay. That is, these are the sources that are not just the stories themselves. These are sources that you're finding outside of those. So one source must come from a database, such as a JSTOR, EBSCOhost, Bloom's, Gale, or a reputable academic journal. And the articles should date from 2007 onward, and the page length of those articles should be more than 2 pages, not just a summary or abstract. So one source should come from a database, whether a database supplied by Hill College or one that you have on your own, but one must come from there. One source, considering the secondary one, could be a website as long as it does not end in .com. Other sources you are more than welcome to include are short stories, novels, works that you have read to help justify your essay outside of the class. If you need assistance, let me know. But you can also use other sources, newspapers, periodicals, audio clips, YouTube videos, films, TV shows, and hard copies of books. Attempt to source a novel, TV show, or film that has resonated with you outside the academic means as well. So meaning one source from a database, and the rest of them can be from anywhere else. If you're having trouble with your databases, please let me know so that we can make sure that we find something that could help be more suitable for you. And just like any other essay, just like essay 2, we have to explore the means of MLA and the standards requirements for this essay. This essay will require a works cited page. And this is just the step-by-step for the next couple of pages that show you how to look at what a works cited page looks like. Because we're going to have multiple sources, make sure that your sources are alphabetized. And this is how your works cited page should look like, showing that they're in alphabetical order, showing that they are hanging indent, showing that from the start to the end of one to another, and if they're online, making sure that we show the date that they were accessed. And these are just step-by-steps on if we were to go to the Hill College LibGuides, and how that would look like if we were starting out from one of these, or if we were looking at it through JSTOR. JSTOR, you would filter out the searches, but they would also give you the option of being able to read some of these online or supplying your username through Hill College. And then also, when they give you the citation for this version, you would use MLA version and citing it for your works cited page, as well as your annotated bibliography. And much like other ones, it's just really good to have that. Something that I also included was how to cite specific things, so you can cite specific citations. So if this one is an online article found in a journal, this is its citation. You would just follow it through. If it's online, you would also include the URL or DOI and the date that it was accessed. For the use of a page on a website, you can follow the same format. You can also quote films or movies. So because you're pulling in from different places, not just the stories that we used in class, consider the following. If you were writing a story, what elements make up that story? I need plot, I need theme, I need characters, I need romance. That's just me. I would pull from stories that we've used in class. I would pull from elements that we've used in class, but also what I've read, watched, or listened to growing up. And what other sources from TV shows, from books, from novels that we can use that could help. For example, if someone were to say that they enjoy a comedic character such as Chandler from Friends, they could quote why a character like that is needed within their essay. If they like suspense and they need this tense moment where all these things happen all at once, they can quote from a TV show that's listed from one of these, an entire series, or actual performances that have helped. So you're pulling from stories that we've read in class and things that you've watched, listened to, or read throughout the course or in your outside life. And these are the texts that you're going to explore, so you definitely should pick at least 2 of these. And these are from start to finish, everything that we've read in class, the Apartment in Samara, North Wind, going all the way down to the poems and the play. And since you have me using multiple sources, your works cited page will need to be included. Failure to not submit it will resort to having a 0. But due to the numerous sources, be sure to address the author's name at the beginning of the quote or the citation, because it might be confusing to say the author states. Well, which author if you have 6 authors at the end of your works cited page or the annotated bibliography? And to help, be sure to use at least 1 quote per each source used or the story. And right here, I actually plug in an example outline, so that way it helps you. It says right here, note, you will need to use at least 4 to 6 examples of in-text quotes, direct quotes, paraphrase to support. Attempt to use a quote for each story that you cite or use. This is not 4 to 6 quotes per each paragraph, but overall, the minimum quotes that should be used for the whole thing. And then there's just reminders within each paragraph. So this is just an outline. You don't have to take it into consideration. It's just more so if some people find it helpful. And it shows you what goes in every paragraph. Introduction paragraph, you're introducing the elements that you're going to use, but also what key elements make up the good story. So answering the question. And then going into all your paragraphs, they dictate what goes into specifics, elements with a story and a quote, continuing forward, going in. This is just a sample guide. For example, if you state theme as an important factor in a short story, research a website or article that supports your reasoning. For every element that you state is important, you will need to find a source, whether a story or quote, that helps back up your claim. You're also going to explore factors that we haven't covered. It is okay if you need to define the term for us. Consider your audience if they don't know what exposition is. You may have to define it. But then also include what is one key element that often ruins a story. This is a working paragraph to establish that factor. For example, if I'm saying one element that often ruins a story is a cliffhanger, I will need to explain my reasoning with a specific example or why it's a disadvantage using the story itself or a definition or a quote from somewhere, and then conclude. I also include right here its due date. The essay is due Monday, December 8th at 11:59. The essay needs to be submitted through Brightspace. It can be submitted the next day, but I take off 30 points automatically after 11:59. But failure to not turn in by Tuesday, December 9th at 4 p.m. will result in a 0. And my grading book closes Tuesday, December 9th at 4 p.m. So please make sure that your essay is due before then it's submitted. You cannot use a late pass due to the strenuous timeline. I would not be able to afford any more time. This is an essay that you will turn in as an electronic copy in the week 8 folder. I will not accept it outside of that. You have to submit it through the Brightspace module for it to work. And this is the components that you will be turning in. The final copy of the essay, which contains the essay, the works cited page, and the endobib. When writing the essay, please sure to continue with the works cited page so that they're all on the same document in continuous, but not just separate work jobs. But then understand that the essay and the annotated bibliography are 2 different things. So let me go forward and tell you about the annotated bibliography. So we understand that the essay always includes a works cited page. The works cited page cites our sources on how they were used within our essay. The annotated bibliography, however, for some, is written to where it shows you how those sources were used or evaluated for the essay. So this is part 2, right? So part 1 is the essay and the works cited page. Part 2 is the annotated bibliography, and this is where you evaluate sources used in your essay. essentially put, it is the works cited page, but for every citation, you just follow with the paragraph on how the source was used. And just so that we skip this, all this, and I will go back to it, all this, I'll show you what that looks like by example. So down here we have an example of the annotated bibliography. Let's just say that this just said works cited page. You can still use the works cited page, you'll just change the title right here. And notice this citation with the hanging indent. They're just following, but for every source, they write a paragraph as to why it was used. Within our paragraph, I'm simply asking you to write a paragraph that covers a sentence on how it was summarized, on how it was accessed, and how you used it in your sentence. And these are also really good summaries and sentence starters per each category. So you're not writing a paragraph per each element. So you're not going to write a paragraph on just summarizing it. You're just going to write a sentence. So you can take a sentence. I don't know why it's not highlighting like that. So the sentence, start off with sentence 1, start off with sentence 2, this one right here, and then start off with sentence 3. As long as you have a sentence that talks about, write it out. As long as you have a sentence that talks about the summary of the source, how you access it, and reflection. We just follow this format. Summary sentence, access sentence, and reflection sentence. So for every source, make sure those sources are also included in the essay. But for every source, you include a paragraph as to why it was used. And that's what an annotated bibliography is. You're piecing or dissecting why it was utilized within your essay and why it works for it. And then this is our class schedule. If you want to go back and look at how it's going to be looked at within the course, the essay, its due date, the final exam is also going to be open December 1st through December 7th. It's completely online. You'll have 2 chances. And then this is my grading rubric for the essay. You're more than welcome to look at it. But take note that once the due date is locked in, it is locked in. And then this is my week 6 part 2 folder, because while the week 6 part 1 folder does have the essay instructions, there's no online submissions, but we have to continue with our stories. So we have a play called Sure Thing by David Ives, and a couple of poems, You Fit Into Me by Margaret Atwood, Love Calls Us Into the Things of This World, text and audio, Having a Cook With You by Frank O'Hare, text and audio. We have 1 academic quiz, and the quiz 6. After you read all these stories and works, I would like you to go back in, after you read all these works, after you read all these works, I would like you to go in and do that. And notice that due date for week 6 is not due until Tuesday, December 2nd, so there are a couple of extra due days for you on this. And I wrote right here, as we cannot review or look at the essay instructions together, you will need to do so, but understand the research that will be required of you for this. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out. And then right here, it just tells you the total points grade. And this concludes our week 6 video lecture for this class. If you have any questions, feel free to let me know.